This video is sponsored by absolutely nobody. This is a completely small channel that I solo produce, so if you like the content, be sure to subscribe. So I guess in a way it's sponsored by you. And with that, let's get into the video.
Oh, message, better read this. I'm gonna scan that QR code. Okay, gotta log in. Oh, gotta buy my tickets. Can't play Call of Duty without buying my 2025 tickets. Okay. Oh, Black Cell. Yeah, better check that out. Let's go to that store. I got a free gift. I'm gonna collect that gift. Awesome.
Get out of my way.
CD on her helmet.
Okay then.
Man, let's find a match. Wait. Gotta customize my loadout first. Oh wait, gotta look at the event. Hold on.
I have spent 8 long years preparing for this.
I beat the boss. I'm in the game.
Hard for you. Capture the objective.
In 2003, Infinity Ward released the first ever Call of Duty on PlayStation 3, Xbox 360, PC, and even Mac. Call of Duty would then go on to release 4 more games before releasing their 6th installment in the franchise, Modern Warfare 2, which released in 2009 and became the best-selling game of that year. Since 2009, Call of Duty as a series has obtained that coveted #1 spot for best-selling game every year since, only to be beaten by 3 games: Grand Theft Auto 5 in 2013, Red Dead Redemption 2 in 2018, and most recently Hogwarts Legacy in 2023. Only 2 studios have topped Call of Duty for the #1 best-selling video game of the respective year. That is 13 years where Call of Duty has been the top-selling video game since 2009. In the years Call of Duty was not the best-selling game, it really fell short of expectations, obtaining the abysmal #2 best-selling spot for game of that year. And I have played a part in this statistic. From Call of Duty 1 to Black Ops 3, I played every single one of these games. I honestly remember playing the first Call of Duty thinking Medal of Honor was king and would never be topped, a thought that would age incredibly poorly, but at the time, I could not play Call of Duty on my Wii Zapper.
You really feel like you have this toy gun in your hand.
I didn't even have the internet when I first played Call of Duty. I played strictly for the campaign and to play split screen with my friends. Man, am I sounding old yet? Then in 2008, this little side mode came out called Zombies, and history was written for me. I don't even want to know how many hundreds, potentially thousands of hours I've put into playing Zombies, but I know I've put way too much time into this game mode. I actually started a YouTube channel during the Black Ops 3 life cycle and thought I'd be a Zombies YouTuber. Now, don't get me wrong, my job right now isn't my favorite job, but I thank God above for not letting that happen. Then, after Black Ops 3, I decided to put my big boy pants on and explore what else the world of video games had to offer, and discovered gaming was much more than just red dot sights, hit markers, tactical nukes, as if I had ever gotten one of those, and Easter eggs. I give that entire lengthy intro so that you know that I am a previous Call of Duty addict. That sounds weird. And when Black Ops 6 came out, both critics and audiences were talking about how good the game was, and that old familiar itch came back. One that I tried to ignore, telling myself that was years ago, that was a past me, I'm not that person anymore. And then my bank account became $70 smaller, and I was that person again. But like any bad habit, I didn't feel fulfilled afterwards. And I think that's what Call of Duty is to the video game industry. It is a bad habit that we cannot shake. Fans don't seem to really like Call of Duty Black Ops 6 right now, and newcomers seem to be fine on it, yet Black Ops 6 still tops the charts as the best-selling video game in 2024, and so far sits at the number 4 best-selling game of 2025. So I've already tilted my hand as to what I've thought about the series so far, but let's talk more in depth about the good, the bad, and the ugly of this game. The first thing that you need to know is that the campaign is an action movie, with a plot that has about as much depth as to allow a newborn to swim through, and the conclusion? Okay, we'll talk about that later. It's a Call of Duty campaign. You get briefed on a mission, you go do that mission, then you get debriefed. That is the routine of every mission. Some missions do have some variety, like a mission that is more open world, having you drive from location to location, albeit with a bit of a lack of discovery since everything is marked for you already, but it was different.
Stay alert out there. You might find other things of interest as well.
You mean the question marks?
Or another mission that's more like a spy mission where you go undercover at some highbrow Senate meeting. Some missions have really good stealth options, and I found stealth to be more engaging and more challenging, so I would often try to go that route if I could. And trying to take down several enemies at once without alerting anyone else in the area was actually kind of fun, especially in some of those open world missions that I mentioned earlier.
I wouldn't take that shot. Damn.
Every mission will ultimately have you go loud at some point though, so you'll make your way through the mission pulling left trigger to ADS, then right trigger to fire. Some of the tactical equipment that you have is a lot of fun as well, with this slow motion explosion to give you the proper action movie protagonist feeling. The Call of Duty campaign experience is essentially unchanged from what it has been in the past, but a few things differ here that I think are worth noting. Right off the bat, you'll notice that the cutscenes look really good. The mission briefings are really clean and gives the player that feeling that they are about to set off on a pivotal moment in history. And not just the cutscenes though, but a lot of the game looks really good actually. When you're talking to people, there's no denying these facial animations look great, or even some of the locations you visit have a very distinct feel to them. There was one in particular that I remember just stopping and looking around because the architecture was really impressive to look at. This campaign is a little bit more than looks though, as Treyarch have actually added some light RPG elements such as dialogue options and even an upgrade/skill tree system. The dialogue selection is at first interesting and unexpected for a Call of Duty game altogether, and I'd actually really like to see this expanded in future games. I was a little more fond of the skill tree progression system that was integrated here though. You see, while you're on a mission, you will find money scattered throughout the level. Each level actually has this vault that you can find, which will give you $1,000, enough for a few upgrades in between missions. You find this by getting close to a radio, then you'll see a signal detected, and that radio will give you the code. Then you take your money home to your base and spend it on selected upgrades between missions. Stuff like faster reloading, more armor damage, getting full health and armor on certain enemy takedowns. This was cool, and I hope they continue to improve upon this in future games. Something else I wasn't expecting was some of the writing is actually decent. Now, I still think the story is mostly just a way to get from one set piece to the next, but in between these set pieces, there was some genuinely good voice work and dialogue. A few parts left me chuckling, and I definitely did not have listening to affluent auctioneers talk about why a certain dance group was having their First Amendment right infringed upon. But there are actually 2 missions in the main campaign that I thought were incredibly fun, and that's because it's a break from the traditional Call of Duty formula. I won't show them here because they're pretty spoilery, but these 2 missions were absolutely the highlight of the game and felt like the devs were really trying to get creative.
Oh my gosh. What? Oh my gosh.
I would genuinely love to see what Treyarch could do detached from the Call of Duty franchise, able to stretch their legs a little bit. But without Treyarch, we would not have zombies. I've already given my history with zombies, and will needlessly recap that it is my bread and butter when it comes to Call of Duty games. And the zombies mode here is good. I'm not sure what else there is to say really, it's zombies. If you've played previous versions, specifically Cold War zombies, you know what this mode is. Round-based survival gameplay with a main Easter egg that is challenging and takes probably too long to do, a mystery box, wall buys, pack-a-punch, just a rounded zombies experience. There are a lot of upgrades you can grind out if you choose to, camos you can grind if you choose to, cool bosses and in-map puzzles to complete if you choose to, and some fun to be had here if you choose to. I do specifically want to point out a change that was made a while ago, and I think that it is an overall net positive, even though it comes with some trade-offs. And that is that you get all of the DLC for free. That's huge. In the past, you had to pay for the base game, then the season pass, which was as much as the base game, and that would then be the full game. Now we have seasonal updates that give you all of the content, all the maps, all the guns for free, with a big asterisk attached to it. Overall, I have enjoyed my time killing zombies, completing all of the Easter eggs solo, strange flex but okay, grinding out some camos, upgrading weapons. With the weapons, when you play with them in zombies, that leveling up carries over to multiplayer and vice versa. This is great for players like me who want to mostly play zombies but occasionally dabble in the multiplayer setting. Which brings us to the multiplayer. And the multiplayer is the multiplayer. It's good. I'm not huge on multiplayer in general, but I've had a few moments that were fun. The Omni movement is nice, I guess. I don't know. It's not world breaking. It's a good, subtle change that they made without adding jetpacks or wall running of the previous games. The maps are fun, and I specifically really like this face-off mode that doesn't have score streaks because the maps are really tiny. And that about sums up the good. Overall, the campaign is fine. The zombies is pretty decent, and the multiplayer is decent as well. One thing that is tough to accurately talk about when discussing Call of Duty is how this series is really good at activating that lizard part of your brain. Call of Duty gives you this really satisfying loop of engaging in a short-term competitive match without having to engage much of your brain in other areas, and that can be a good thing as much as it can be a negative. Now I was not planning on playing the campaign until I decided to do a video on Black Ops 6, and I think the last Call of Duty campaign I completed was Black Ops 3, and let me tell you what, playing this campaign made me feel exactly how I felt when I used to play older campaigns. Most of the time, not all the time, but most of the time, I was bored. To watch explosions happen all around me while riding on the back of a motorcycle with no real threat of death. Loads of guns that all have different names, but shoot pretty much the same. Normally I'd want to recount the story in a video, but this story really just exists to get you to the next set piece. There's no real great plot. This campaign suffers from telling and not showing. You go and do a big set piece. That is ultimately just sneak around doing stealth takedowns until you get caught, and then do loud takedowns. But you're not really witnessing the story move forward yourself. You do this set piece, you then go back to base and are told what happens as a result of your mission. The best example of telling and not showing is after you do your first mission, you're brought back to base and your team is just like, oh yeah, by the way, we recruited this other guy who's just at your camp. A pitfall the game really falls into as a result is what I'll just call last name syndrome. Call of Duty is really bad about showing you one person that has significance and then never showing you that person for the rest of the game. It expects you to remember them by their last name, and you may have heard this once in a cutscene before. I guess it makes sense when and if you know who all of the characters are, but to me, as a newcomer to Call of Duty or somebody who hasn't played a Call of Duty in a long time, much of the time, the dialogue and the story just didn't make sense. I'm just hearing a bunch of last names being thrown at me who I kind of remember, and I'm supposed to care about something that they did or did not do.
Last March, someone produced documents showing encrypted transfers from the drug lord Raul Menendez to my personal bank account. I got wind of it before Langley called me in from Morocco. Decided not to get on that plane.
Like, what does that even mean, dude? What, you just said a bunch of names.
I don't know, I might have cared about the story a little bit, but the way that they tell you the story is really just boring. There's some interesting dialogue to listen to during and between the missions, but the dialogue serves little more than to make the setting feel lived in. I gave that example of the auctioneers talking about the First Amendment rights of the dancers. That's cool at first, but when you dig down deep into it, it doesn't have any impact on the story at all. And this dialogue tree I mentioned earlier really is just a case of pressing X or A until you exhaust all of your options. So yeah, overall, I was not a fan of the story, especially the ending. Are you kidding me? This is a slight spoiler, I guess, but the ending is so bad. I don't know if I can think of any story that has had an ending quite as terrible as this. You wrap up the game and then everybody's like, but that still begs the question, who let somebody in here to begin with? And then it just cuts to this random dude that you have never seen before. Why do I care about that? Why is he in the game? You barely wrapped up the story you were telling only to leave me on a cliffhanger? I mean, it's not good. The story is not good. I guess you're not playing Call of Duty for the story, but man, it just really bothered me here. I was so bored whenever I wrapped up this campaign. I literally just laid down for like a 2-hour nap afterwards. Ultimately though, the campaign is fine. It has some decent missions, decent set pieces, the same gameplay that you've played before, and a story that you won't care about. But I must call out my own hypocrisy and talk about Zombies now. Zombies has been doing this carrot on a stick bad campaign thing for years. Whatever grievances I have with the main campaign of Call of Duty Black Ops 6, multiply that by 10 and you've got the Zombies storyline. This storyline is so convoluted that people have literally made 9-hour videos on the Zombies story, and they still leave stuff out. Honestly, as we get DLC for Black Ops 6, the story gets even worse. Or better. I don't know, we'll see. I have several other minor complaints about this Zombies experience, such as the loadout system, the point system, weapon rarity, etc. But you can find those complaints and many more by watching any other video on Zombies or just going to the COD Zombies subreddit. But one thing I do want to talk about is this augment system. And I think this system is overall cool, but my goodness, Call of Duty has never been so blatant about wanting you to play only their game, and that is currently Black Ops 6. I say that for several reasons, one of which being the amount of time it takes you to spend to actually fully upgrade and augment. I haven't timed how long it takes, but I'd say at least 2 hours for each one augment that you want to fully upgrade. And there are dozens of these. I am ashamedly at 110 hours in this game, and I do not have every augment unlocked. I know other people are going to say that I've just poorly optimized my time, and sure, that's probably part of it, but I have 110 hours in this game. Most of that time spent playing Zombies, and I have not unlocked every augment. I should have unlocked every single one of these 30 hours ago. It just takes too long. And this is a running theme in Call of Duty as it stands, specifically in Black Ops 6, and that is the time that it takes to play this game. Call of Duty has mastered this carrot on a stick style of gameplay. They're always dangling the next thing in front of you, the next prestige, the next camo unlock. You play the game to show off your level, calling cards, operators, and weapons. This isn't new to Call of Duty, but it specifically struck a nerve with me here. There is so much to unlock, so much to do, and it always feels obtainable, which leads us into the multiplayer. And the multiplayer is multiplayer, with the same issues that I just mentioned, which leads us into a discussion about motivation in playing video games. Now, just hang with me here, because it becomes relevant. When it comes to game design, there are two types of motivation: intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. Now, there is actually a lot of study done about intrinsic and extrinsic motivation, and it can get pretty complicated, but to keep it simple, intrinsic motivation is when the player is playing the game purely for the enjoyment of the game itself. Think Minecraft, when a player builds a very intricate palace in their own server that is only for their own enjoyment. Extrinsic motivation is when there are forces outside of the game itself motivating the player to play the game. Think camos, or prestige icons, or badges. Contrary to the point you might think I'm about to make, there is real research to suggest that a mixture of intrinsic and extrinsic motivation is good when designing a game. Think leaderboards in Tetris. But there is an effect called the over-justification effect. This is when the introduction of an external reward for an activity that the player already finds motivating ultimately reduces their intrinsic motivation. Do you see where I'm going with this now? Call of Duty, while being great at letting you see that next reward, has muddied its multiplayer and zombies and even campaign with external rewards. The grinding becomes too much. The calling cards you grinded for automatically get trumped when new ones are added. Even in the campaign, there are challenges to incentivize you to not play the campaign for what it is, but for the weapon skins or the calling cards that you can unlock. Call of Duty used to just have calling cards, camos, KD ratios, leaderboards. That used to be enough. And even then, you have to question that relationship between external and internal motivation when you're playing the game. Was it a good balance? Maybe, but it's certainly better than what we have today. To focus on player engagement, Call of Duty has introduced daily challenges, battle passes, and seasonal events. Events that have you constantly coming back to play the game and earn extra rewards. Even as I write this, a new event dropped for St. Patrick's Day because that's what everyone wants, right? A gun covered in green for St. Patrick's Day. This constant barrage of events might be good for the short-term engagement, but we'll see if this pans out in the long term. For me though, I was sick of seeing a new event for me to grind every single time I logged in to play. But the sad thing is that this is working. This extrinsic motivation is plaguing the gaming industry today. Games like Fortnite really set this into motion with their battle pass system. The fear of missing out, of not getting your tier 100 reward, becomes the motivation to play the game and not the game itself. They've even doubled down with this with multiple battle passes. And this discourse could go on for a long time. But at the end of the day, when you are playing a game for the reward and not for the game, why are you playing the game? Is that game even fun to you anymore? Now, I myself have played many games like this, namely Fortnite, Apex Legends, and I've ultimately fallen off of them. And I can tell you from first-hand experience that a huge reason for me falling off these games was battle pass fatigue. I didn't want to keep grinding the next battle pass for the next skin or the next badge. It's a term we all know called burnout. And we haven't even talked about the amount of money that you can spend in this game. Can I remind you that this is a fully priced $70 game, and you can spend $30 on this one skin alone, nearly half the cost of this full-priced game. Now, earlier I said that the seasonal content was free. You used to have to pay an extra $60 to be able to play on all of the maps that were released, and the trade-off we got was battle passes and skins. Is this better? It's tough to say, but what I can say for sure is that this system of monetization is just as predatory, if not more so. The Battle Pass has two tiers to it. One that is your standard $10 Battle Pass that you can buy with COD points, the currency you earn in-game, which in theory, if you completed one Battle Pass, you would be able to buy the next one. Then there's a second tier, a tier that costs $30 US. You cannot buy this one with your COD points, and every single time you log into the game, the first tile you can click on is for this tier 2 Black Cell Battle Pass. Not even the game itself. You have to click into the game, then tab to the mode that you want to play. Hi, me from the future. Okay, so Season 3 launched, and they actually took away this Black Cell Battle Pass tile, the first one that you click on. But it's now replaced with a Warzone tile to get you to download another game after the game that you theoretically just bought. The point is different, but I think it still stands. Okay, back to past me now. Then they've managed to cram another battle pass into this game with this seasonal pass. You pay an extra $10 so that you can unlock this premium pass for an event, and if life happens and you get busy, you don't get that extra reward in the battle pass. You just lose out on your $10. I know. Fortnite already does this, but need I remind you that Fortnite is free. And at least when I boot up Fortnite, I'm brought to the actual lobby of the game and not their $30 battle pass. Activision has always been bad about monetization. It's how they earn their nickname Cash Division. I remember in Black Ops 3 when loot boxes were essentially in the game. And Activision continues to set the bar exceedingly high when it comes to how predatory a company can be in regards to microtransactions in their fully priced game. Did you also know that you cannot play this fully priced game that you paid for offline? Like, at all. If you want to play multiplayer, that makes sense. You should be online for that. But if you want to play the campaign, nope. Can't do that offline. Remember that PSN outage that happened a few months ago? This is the screen that you were greeted with when you just tried to boot up the game. And that go offline button doesn't do anything at all either. You cannot play any part of this game offline. There are supposed to be benefits to this, like streaming in textures instead of having them downloaded onto your console, but Call of Duty, if you're streaming in textures, then one, why do my textures look like this?
This is why this game is always online.
And two, why is the file size for your game 146 gigabytes? This is the largest app on my PS5 at the moment, and I have Baldur's Gate 3 installed. And you're telling me that it would be bigger if you weren't relying on this technology to stream in the textures? Something is amiss here. I cannot play this $70 game that I paid for offline if my internet were to go out, or PSN goes down, or heaven forbid Activision ever decide to shut down the servers for whatever reason. But okay, whatever, right? 97% of Americans have internet access, and almost 70% of the global population has access to internet as well. And skins, that's no big deal, right? It's just a company making extra money. You don't have to buy those skins. Surely they're just taking that extra money and investing it back into the game that they're making. Wrong again. Sure, this game did have the longest development cycle out of any other Call of Duty to date, but Treyarch apparently thought that because of this long development cycle, they needed to make up for that cost in other departments, specifically employing actual artists to create calling cards and loading screens that never cease to incentivize player engagement. I'm talking, of course, about the use of AI art in Black Ops 6. Like all artificial intelligence art, if you look at it at first glance, it looks fine. But when you take any amount of time to actually examine the art, and I'm using quotations around the word art, so from now on, let's just call it what it is, crap. When you take any amount of time to examine the crap on your screen, you'll see that this was spat out by some ChatGPT algorithm. Seriously, how does a 6-fingered zombie make it in as a loading screen into the game? The answer is that Treyarch and Activision are all about making profits at any cost. That means not hiring proper graphic designers and artists to make their content, and also means not hiring someone to thoroughly vet even the cheap AI crap that is spat out. It also means wanting to use AI for the use of voice work in this game. Now, to be absolutely clear, as of right now, there has been no news regarding whether or not Activision Treyarch are using AI or trying to use AI in their game at all for voice work. All we can do is look at the facts given to us already. The first fact being that we know AI is already used in Black Ops 6 to replace proper artists. The second fact is that Julie Nathanson, the voice of a prominent character in the Zombies storyline, has been replaced with a different voice actor as she has been on strike for the protection against AI. This strike she is on is part of the SAG-AFTRA strike, and what those participating in this strike want is just protection so that their voices cannot be used by machine learning models without any of their knowledge, which makes sense. Could you imagine going to work every day, earning a paycheck, then next thing you know, a model replica of you and the work that you are doing is being used at another company somewhere else without your knowledge? That is not right and messed up. So we stand with Julie Nathanson and others in this SAG-AFTRA strike. Activision is a company affected by the strike, and rather than being reasonable with the demands given to those on strike, they just replace Julie Nathanson completely with a completely different actress, past and present lines. To be transparent here, the whole situation sucks, and in reality, the biggest thing Activision could do is push for a resolution with those on strike, but instead they opt to hire a worse voice actress. Hopefully their goal is to restore Julie Nathanson and all of her lines, both past and present, but I have my doubts. Honestly, if Call of Duty were just a game that you played the campaign, the zombies, and multiplayer, it would be fine. But the current state of Call of Duty is a scary look into what the video game industry can be if we as players allow it to happen. A future where AI creates the art, where voice actors are replaced by robots, where you're playing for the external reward and not the internal motivation, all in the name of maximizing profits. Call of Duty is all about generating cash first and you having fun second. Fortunately, it seems like the industry can only stomach so many of these types of games at once. I firmly believe that if a new game came out and didn't have the staying power that Call of Duty has, and tried to put into place every practice that Activision currently are in Black Ops 6, they would be shut down. We don't even have to look that far for examples of this. Take Concord for example. That game played well, but it was a live service game that you had to pay for with no microtransactions, and it still failed. Multiverses was a free-to-play Smash Brothers clone that had a pretty egregious monetization system, and that got shut down as well. The Suicide Squad, released by Warner Brothers, was completely overshadowed by its single-player counterpart releasing that year, Hogwarts Legacy, a single-player game with no microtransactions that has been one of 3 ever to thwart Call of Duty's #1 best-selling game slot. Recently released Split Fiction, which has amassed a 91 on Metacritic and sold 2 million copies in just 1 week. The lead director of this game, Joseph Fares, recently did an interview where he stated that when game makers and companies focus solely on a profit, it stagnates the industry. And I can't think of 2 better games to contrast than Split Fiction and Call of Duty. Split Fiction is a game almost exclusively focused on the intrinsic motivation, a game that you just play with your friend. There is no microtransactions or deluxe edition upgrades. It's just a game, and your friend can play with you for free. Split Fiction is a genre-defining game with loads of creativity and a variety of fun. And Call of Duty now allows you to sprint in all directions. And you can bet that if companies can continue to get away with the things that Call of Duty is currently getting away with, it will only be a matter of time before other CEOs will want to cash in on this artificial cow, and the industry will be worse for it. Black Ops 6 is an indication about where the games industry is going if we as players allow it. And clicking that subscribe button is an indication as to where this channel is going if you as the viewer will allow it. Seriously, please click that subscribe button if you made it to this point and did enjoy the video. The channel is at 278 subscribers as of time of recording. I would love to see that number go up a little bit. If you're already subscribed, be sure to leave a comment letting me know what you thought about the video, if you've played Black Ops 6, if you're going to play it eventually, if this is just really not your bag, but you found some things in the video interesting. Would love to chat with you in the comments down below. And also please leave a like button if you have not already up until this point. And I'm going to ask you to do something crazy even. If you really like the video, maybe even consider posting it on your socials. Would love to see this video get out there, and with that, I'm going to go try this new Shattered Veil DLC, see what it's all about. Okay, yeah, that was cool. Yeah, I liked that. I will admit it, that was cool.